Welcome everyone to day 11. So day 11, we're going to be talking about creating fields. So this is where we start to get to the exciting parts of where we actually be able to create custom fields, forms, and actually start getting CRM to a point where we can actually customize it and get it to do and perform different functions that we want to be able to perform. All right. So in this lecture, we're going to be talking about different field types and fields that you can actually create. So for those of you who don't know, if you skipped the previous lecture, a field is where you actually type a piece of data. So in other words, if you have a form that you're filling in on a website, for example, all the fields that you fill in, like name and surname and phone number and so forth, these are what we refer to as fields. In CRM, we have a CRM forms, which is the web page you're looking at. And on the form is different fields, and all these fields have types, right? So we get a simple field type, which contains data, a calculated field type, and also a roll-up field type. The different types of field, or field data types, what we call it, is there's quite a couple. So there's a single line of text. So this is commonly used when you want to enter, let's say, for example, a name or a surname or a basic single line of text. So it's random text that you can enter in there. It has no specific special rules. There are rules that you can actually go and configure, but this field can contain up to 4,000 characters that you can enter into a single line text field. Right. There's get a multi-line text field. So multi-line text field, which you commonly see, like let's say, for example, you visit a website and there's a contact us form, and on that contact us form, you fill in your name, you fill in your email address, and there's a big block for you to write a message. That's what we refer to as a multi-line text field. The multi-line text field can hold over 1 million characters, actually 1,048,576 characters that you can put into a multi-line text field. You can also, in the settings, when creating a multi-line text field, you can also limit the number of characters. So if I wanted to, for example, I wanted to have someone enter some data, and I wanted to limit it to 500 characters or 1,000 characters, I also have that option to do that. I have an option set. So many of us, especially people who don't know Dynamics too well, an option set is exactly the same thing as a drop-down. So in Dynamics, when we're doing configuration, we refer to it as an option set, which are a set of options, or in the normal case, when you visit a website, you click on a drop-down. Exactly the same thing. You also have a multi-select option set. So what that is a drop-down menu that allows you to choose more than one option. Okay, so that's very important. Right? An option set allows you a drop-down that you can select a single option. A multi-select option set is a drop-down where you can choose more than one option. All right. However, the difference between the two, aside from the fact that the multi-select option set allows you to choose more than one option, is very limited in other configurations. For example, you can't use it to invoke workflows, and there's a couple of different rules, but I'll get into that just now. In terms of two options, two options is basically like a drop-down, except it's only got two options: a yes or a no, or a true or a false, and you can actually configure how you want that. All right. You have a status field and a status reason. So a status is either and normally active or inactive. A status reason, for example, is basically like a substatus. So in other words, if my status is active, but I can have a substatus or a status reason of active, account in arrears, or active, account approved. You can have substatuses for what does active actually mean. And likewise, for inactive, you can have an inactive state with a substatus reason where account blacklisted. So you can modify the status reason to fit more your business profile. So it's a second level of defining. Right, you get a whole number and a floating number. Now, to be honest, in my case personally, I've never actually used a floating number, but a whole number and a floating number and a decimal number. Okay, so floating point number is practically exactly the same as a decimal number. I mean, on the onset, when you do the configuration, it's pretty much exactly the same field. The only one major difference that I do find, a decimal number, you can have up to 10 decimal points of precision. So when we say 10 decimal points of precision, what we mean is after the zero, how many decimals can you carry after the zero? So if you wanted up to 10, you'd have to use a decimal number. If you wanted up to 5, you could use a floating point number. Personally, I've never used a floating point number, and I've never had any reason to actually use it, but I suppose you could use it. Right, after this lesson, I'm going to share an article to Microsoft Documents that explains the difference between a floating point and decimal number in quite detail. There's a whole number, so a whole number being a number that is not a decimal. So there's no fraction to the number. So a whole number field will be if you want to use it to enter the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever number you want to enter, that enter a whole number. So there is no option for the user to enter, for example, 2, 5, 6. Okay. Common place for using whole numbers is, let's say, for example, a customer is ordering products, and you can't order 1.25 Cokes. You can order 1 Coke or 2 Cokes or 3 Cokes. So depending on the whole number, the number type, you would define, do I want to use a whole number or do I want to use a decimal number? Also depends on the method. So you can have a whole number that's calculated, a floating point number that's calculated, or a decimal number that's calculated. And depending on the precision on how accurate you want the result to be, you want it down to the actual cent or whatever. So you can decide kind of which way you want to go. Both whole numbers, floating point numbers, and decimal numbers have a minimum and maximum value. Right? So floating point and decimal numbers from negative 100 billion to positive 100 billion, both for the floating point and decimal number. Whereas a whole number is less. It's actually negative 2.1 million up and then up to positive 2.1. Negative 2.1 billion and up to positive 2.1 billion. And then when I share the documents, you'll get the exact values, right? You also get a currency field. So a currency field is if you're going to be creating, let's say, for example, well, an invoice, something that has a monetary value. So whatever your currency is that's set on your system, if it's set in US dollars or South African rands or whichever currency you use, if you're adding a currency field onto the form, it'll obviously show based on your system currency. You get a date and time field as well, which you also have the option of date only or date and time. Unfortunately, you don't have time only, but you do get a date only or date and time. So much like if I use the date and time field and I set it for date and time, that means when I add the field to the form, it'll request the user to enter the date as well as the actual time. You get an image field. Now, an image field, also one that's not really used a lot, and is often confused with the ability to actually add pictures onto a CRM form, and it actually isn't. And Alex, I'll actually demonstrate to you just now how an image field actually looks. Okay. You get a lookup field. A lookup field is, imagine if I've got a customer and on my system I've got a customer record, but that customer I want to connect to an account. So from the customer record, I'll click on the lookup, and the lookup gives me a list of accounts, and then that creates the connection, what we refer to as connecting a child record to a parent. And there's a term you must become familiar with, and that term is append and append to. Okay, so to explain the difference between the two is if I am on a contact record and I want to connect it to a parent record, that it means I'm appending the current record I'm on to the parent record. So that's append to. If I'm in the parent record and I'm connecting a child record, then I'm appending. Okay, so just remember those two. I know that one gets people a little bit confused. All right. The owner field, the owner is who's the owner of the record. Now, this is something that you need to understand about how Dynamics works and how the data flow works in Dynamics. So every record has an owner. Sometimes the owner can be the system administrator. The owner can be an actual user in the system, and so forth, right? So the owner of the record determines basically who actually sees the record. So if I'm the owner of a set of accounts and I go into my view and I click on accounts, by default, the system will show me a list of my accounts. So my account means the accounts where I'm listed as the owner of the record. So imagine if you got 5 or 6 key account managers and they're all responsible for different accounts. All you simply do is assign ownership to those accounts, and then the respective account managers will by default see their accounts. You can apply the ownership field to any record, but also likewise, assigning one record to another is in essence changing the ownership of the record for one person to another, from one queue to another, and from one user to another. Right. Unique identifiers is a system field that stores global unique identifier. So the unique identifier is not actually a field that you can see. Only when you export the data into an Excel file will you actually be able to see that unique identifier, and I'll demonstrate that a bit later. And then the last one that I want to talk about is the customer field. So the customer field is quite a unique field. That is, when you create a lookup means I want to be able to connect the current record that I'm on to, or append that record to another record. It's looking up only to one entity. So if I'm on a contact and I want to select which account it is, when I click on it, it'll only give me a list of accounts. However, customer is a lookup to both account and contact. So why would you need that? In some scenarios and in some business situations, you may have customers that are physical individuals or people that purchase products from you in a one-on-one based products. But in other customer types, those customers who are purchasing from you are actually companies. So if I'm doing creating an opportunity, I can assign that opportunity to a customer who can either be a company or an individual, or I can assign the opportunity to, not really assign, or connect the opportunity to an account as well as a contact. So you have that flexibility to be able to define who you're going to actually connect the record to. All right. And I'm going to share the document on the Logix 365 /learning website. So you'll be able to read over this. I know it's a lot of information to take in. But let's get into it. I'm going to drag my CRM trial environment onto the screen. And now we can actually get going and see how we actually do this. Okay, so I'm going to start off by first creating a custom entity. When I say a custom entity, like we have cases over here. This is an entity. We have contacts, accounts, social profiles, cases, queues, knowledge articles. These are entities. So I'm going to create a custom entity, which is going to be my playground. And this is where I'm going to be able to create all my custom fields. All right. So on this little gear over here, I'm going to click on the gear and I'm going to go to advanced settings. Okay, so we just wait for that to load. And once that loads, then we can actually start the next part when it loads. There we go. Okay, fantastic. So because in our previous lesson, we were talking about creating solutions, let's actually go and work inside the solution that we were working on previously. So there's the solution we created last time. So let's click it up, open it up. Let's open it up to full screen. All right. And if I expand this, I can see I've got my contact entity here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new entity. And this is going to be a demo entity. Let's actually call it demo entity. Right. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it demo. So that's the actual display name. So you see how this one says contact on the left. This one is going to say demo. Okay. And then give it a plural name. So I'm going to say demo. Let me just move my mouse. There we go. Demo records. Okay. And you'll see the name of the field. This is what we refer to as the logical name. Will give you a prefix defined based on your publisher plus the name of the field. Now you'll notice it'll always pick the display name. You can obviously rename this, but remember the golden rule is you need to make sure that there's no spaces. Okay. Right. Then here we can define it as a virtual entity if we want to. We can define a data source if we want to. We can define ownership. Now, ownership over here, this is quite an important one, right? So ownership basically means is by default who owns the record. So if I select organization, it means when I publish this entity, the entire organization will be able to see it. If I say user or team owns the record, then by default, only the user or team that can see this record will be able to interact with this record. So in this case, keep it simple. I'm going to say organization. So I actually quite like to use organization. And then when I do my security configurations later on in future videos, when I do security, I'll teach you how to define the ownership as an organization. Then once the record is assigned, then it'll obviously change from there. Okay. Then over here is the access areas where I want the entity to display. So if I just move this off the screen just for a second. Oopsie. Okay. Let me just move this off the screen. If I go into my CRM, you can see here, it says sales, service, marketing, training, portals, and community. All right. So if I go back into the form, let's put this back on the screen into my settings. It asks me areas that I want to display it. So I don't want to display it in service. Select service. If I want to display it in sales, select sales. So I'm going to select sales and service. Okay. Then there's some other settings here. I can add notes to it if I want to. So this gives me, if I select this, then it allows me to add notes and attach documents. So let's activate that. And then obviously we're going to enable for document management and OneNote integration. I'm not going to do that. Very important one, if you are enabling this entity for a portal, make sure you check change tracking so that the information is not cached, but I'll get to that when we do portal configuration. All right. Then color, we can obviously select the color here that we want. So this color is actually the color of the icon. Okay. So when I say color of the icon, let me actually show you how we change that. Let's go and let's go to our hex color picker. Just go type it into a URL. And then we can slide this around and we can go pick a nice color that we want. Maybe you want a bright blue like that. Let's copy it. And then if we make this full screen again and I go put this in the color, you'll see it'll change to the blue. There we go. I can give it a description. So I'm going to say this is a demo entity for training. Great stuff. All right, cool. So next thing to do is I'm going to click on save and close. All right. Now that I've done that, wait for my entity to create. Can take a bit of time. We just wait for it and let it finish creating. What it's creating is creating everything that's required, all the components and so forth. Another thing that's important while we're waiting for it to create, if you ever hear someone talking about metadata, the metadata that they're referring to is actually this form that we use to create the entity. So if I go here on the side, you'll see it says demo. If I had to ask you about the demo metadata, what I'm talking about is this information over here. This is the metadata. Okay. So now that it's created, if we expand this entity, you'll see there's forms, views, charts, fields, keys, and there's a couple of different things that you can do here. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is if we click on forms, you'll see by default, a main form is created, a card form is created, and a quick view. All right, if we go to fields, some of the default fields would have already been created. So out of the box, created by, created on. There's the demo ID, the name. There's a couple of out-of-the-box fields that automatically creates. And there's the status field that we referred to and the status reason. So these are out-of-the-box fields. Okay. So we want to focus on the custom fields. Okay. So let's start by the first one, the single line of text. All right. So let's go. Let's navigate to our form. Now, generally speaking, when you have designed a form, you would normally design the form, plan your field types, plan your data types, plan all your settings first, and then you would create all your fields and then go to the form and then populate them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm going to go to the main form, and I'm going to actually do the configuration straight actually on the main form as well as create the fields as well. All right, so let's start. On the right-hand side of your panel over here, you'll see there's a new button on the bottom right. You click on new. Okay, so the very first field type we're going to deal with is something called a single line of text. Okay, so we've got name as the primary key over there. So we're now going to go and put in a display name. So let's say I'm going to put in surname. Let's actually use something more. Let's say last name. And when I click out, you'll see it'll actually create the last name over here. I'm actually going to change the name and make it last name as well, but I want it all lowercase. Cool. Then over here, field requirement, optional, business recommended, or business required. So this is where you actually set whether you want the field to be mandatory or not. So if it's optional, it means you can fill it in whether you have a choice or not. Business recommended means next to the field, you know, normally on a form where you see the CRM form has a little red asterisk next to it, so a red star, what people normally say, that means it's required. But business recommended actually puts a blue star next to it, which says you actually have a choice, but we prefer that you do fill it in. Okay. Then business required means it's mandatory. For now, I'm just going to leave it as optional. Do I want to define the field as searchable? And in the search index, I can say yes or no. All right. Field security. So if I wanted to apply security roles on the field and define the field to either enable for security or disable, it means in this field security profiles that I create, I can define whether users are able to edit it, see it, and so forth. Then I would have to have the field enabled for field security in order for me to go and configure the field security on it. Right? Auditing. Another way I could say this is with regards to auditing is when a field is created behind CRM, it goes and records what was the old value, what was the new value. So if I enable this entity for recording, every time you modify this field, it will record that. Okay. Then in the description here, you can give the field an actual description and explain what the field's about. Right, then your data type. There's your different data types. This is what I was explaining to you earlier, right? The single line of text is the first one. So let's go with that. Then field type, you can have simple or calculated. Now that's quite interesting that you can have a single line of text that's calculated, right? So that's very interesting, and we'll do some demos later on once we've got a little bit of data. But for now, I'm going to go with the simple, which means a straightforward block, and this block is going to hold its data, and that's it, right? The format, do I want it as text? So is it a text field, an email field, a text area, URL, ticker symbol, or phone? Right, so it's very interesting that they've got a phone number, but it's a single line of text. So what this does is it basically validates the field type. So although it's a single line of text, if I select email, when entering, it'll do almost like a validation to make sure it is actually of type email that you're entering. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to say text. Maximum length, let's reduce this down to 50. So in other words, if the user enters, let's actually make it 10 so that I can demo what the actual error shows. All right, then the IME mode, leave it on auto. Right, let's go save and close. Now, once you go save and close, you'll see on the right-hand side, your field isn't there. Okay, that's because we need to click on save, select your URL, press F5 to refresh your screen, and then your new field will show up. And there we go. So let's drag our field on. Hold the field down with your left key and just drag it. And you'll see wherever you place the field, you'll see there'll be a red line. So if I wanted to place it above, just drag it until you get the red line above, or drag it below until you get the red line below, and then let go. Okay. And further to actually adding the field, so now we've added the field on the form. If we go save and then publish, we want to actually go see what it looks like. And let's go and have a look. So we've got a name and a last name. We've got a notes section that's been added. So we're busy publishing that. All right, so we've done that. Okay. Once we've published it, the next thing to do is to actually go to our CRM where we need to refresh. So let's refresh our CRM. There we go. And let's just close that out. We scroll down over here. And we go, look, you see over here, extensions. You'll see it says demo records. This is the entity that we just created. And if I click over to sales, remember I checked in the settings that I wanted it both in sales and I wanted it also in, there we go, demo records there too. So let's select it and you'll see the active demo records list is empty. If I go over here and I can switch between inactive and active records. All right. The active and inactive records is based on the status. Okay, so if the status is active, then that will determine what data will show here. Let's go click on new. All right, so there's the name, there's the last name. All right, so let's put a name. Let's put James, and then last name. We're going to put something really, really long. There we go. That should be more than 10. And if I tab out of that, there we go. It says you have exceeded the maximum number of 10 characters in this field. So it actually shows you the error message that you have exceeded the 10 characters. Okay, cool. So let's go and enter a normal name and we can tab out and then the error message goes away. And we can click on save and close. And there we go. You've just created your first field on your own custom entity. All right. So let's go over to the next one. We're going to use we're going to insert a multi-line of text now. And the context of this one is to be able to add a field that a user can enter a description or a message. Let's say message, because description is quite common. Let's go new field. Okay. And let's say message. And we can tab out. Then it's going to create our field name. I like to rename it the same thing, but I like to keep it as all lowercase. Okay. So later on, when I start getting to JavaScript, you'll see that if we keep it as lowercase, your JavaScript and your field names will all be in the same sort of format, makes your code look neat, and it also helps you to be able to write nicely. All right. Field requirements searchable. We're going to leave that all as is, except the data type I'm going to change to multi-lines of text. This one right over here. Let's click on that. Okay, then maximum length, we can change it. Let's change it down to 500 characters. And the IME mode we can leave as auto. All right, let's go. Save and close. Okay, fantastic. Then we go save, and then select your URL on top, press F5 to refresh, so we can get our field on the right-hand side. Now, obviously, if you went into your solution and you went and created all the fields first, then you could come into the form and all the fields will be there. All right. So there's our message field. Let's hold it down with the left key. Let's drag it, drop it. Okay, so there's one more configuration I actually want to do here. Is I want to change the way the field actually renders. So if you go select the field once and click on change properties. And let's go see what settings we can actually change. So the label we can change. So that now that we've created the field and we've created the field name, that won't change in the settings, but I can actually change the label over here without affecting the settings in the background. I can specify over here field behavior. So it says specify field label behavior. Field is read only. So if I check this, then obviously no one will be able to edit the field. All right. And then locking, specify whether to lock this field or not. So if I select this, you'll see over there where it created the red padlock, it would do the same thing. Okay. Which basically means the field cannot be removed. Right? Visibility, if I uncheck this, then the field will disappear on the form. If I check it, the field will be visible by default. Then availability for mobile phones, if I uncheck this, then when you open this entity on a mobile phone, you won't see this field, message field, on a mobile phone. Okay, so we're going to check that. What I really want to show you is the formatting. Okay, so here's a really important part over here. So we have where it says row layout. So number of rows to show. Now it currently says 1. So that means in my message block, I'm going to have this really tiny block that's only 1 row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this 5 rows high by default. And if the amount of text in there exceeds 5 rows, then I want the row layout to automatically increase in size. So when the user comes onto the form, they can automatically see all the text and they don't have to scroll. All right, there we go. So we've done that piece, right? The next thing I want to show you is the details. Okay, so this is where I can go and edit the actual configuration of the field when I initially created it. There's events. This is where I'm going to go and load JavaScript if I want to load JavaScript or HTML and different JSON or whatever. There's business rules. I can add different business rules over here if I wanted to. And there is also additional controls. All right, we'll get into the controls just now. Let's click on OK. Now look at how the field has come up. Okay, great stuff. So we can go save and publish. Okay, so let's wait for that to publish. And there we go. Now you notice over here, if I click on new, my field is not there. Why is it not there? Because I haven't refreshed. So let's refresh CRM. All right. So very important to note that obviously now that I've added a new field, the field will now be exposed to existing records as well as new records. So if I open this up, my message block will be here and I can start entering it any data. Okay, there we go. And then I can simply on the bottom right, click on save and then my data is saved. With regards to the timeline, remember I selected notes in the field configuration. So if I go click here, enter note, I can give it a title. So this is a note. Hi, how are you? Cool. And then I can go and attach a file over here if I want to, or click on add note. And there we go. And then it'll go and save that note into the actual timeline. You can have a stream of information over here. Okay. Cool stuff. So let's move on to the next field, which is going to be option set. So let's go and create our very first option set. So let's go and navigate back to our form. And we're going to say new field. And let's create quite a common option set, right? Let's create an income bracket option set, right? So we're going to give it a name. We're going to say income bracket, tab out of it. There's the name there. So let's go income bracket. And there we go. We've got that sorted. The next thing to do is to complete the field requirement. Do you want it searchable and so forth? So we're not going to worry too much about that for now. What we're going to be most concerned about is let's go straight down to the data type, and we're going to go to option set. All right. The field type, simple or calculated. So at this stage, simple. Do we want to use an existing option set? Now this one here, we're referring to global option sets. I'm going to show you that in the next demo after this, but let's go with the standard option set for now. The default value is if you want to assign a default value. So when the user opens the form, it already has something displayed. We can give it a default value. At this stage, we can't give it a default value because we haven't added anything, right? Okay, so let's go on the right over here, or sorry, on the left, click on the plus, and we're going to give it an income bracket. So from 5,000 to 9999, and then you just click out of the block, and then it creates. Let's click on plus from 10,000. 10,000, there we go, that's 10,000 to, let's say, 19,999, right? And let's add one more. Plus, we're going to say from 20,000 and above. Great stuff. And there we go. There's also quite a nice thing over here. You can add a description. So when you hover over the value, you can actually have, if you enter a description here, that description that you're hovering over, whatever you've typed in this description field will actually display. If so, that's kind of like a tooltip, right? Okay. So now we've created that. The next thing to do is to save and close. Okay. Let's go and save our form. And then go to your URL and press F5 to refresh. Okay. And then we're going to go and look for our option set. Okay. So let's go income bracket. Let's drag it and drop it here. There we go. We've got our income bracket. And then we can click on save. And let's publish. There we go. Let's close this down. Let's refresh. And we're expecting our field to show up at the bottom here. And there we go. There's our income bracket. We click on it, and then you can select the income. Cool, right? So that's how an option set works. Right. Let's go look at how a multi-income option set actually works. All right. So let's go back. We're going to use a multi-option set now. Okay. So we're going to go do the same thing, create new field. And for a multi-option set, I'm going to use some arbitrary how could we say? Which cars are your favorite cars, right? So let's say favorite. There we go. Favorite cars, right? Let's actually go with preferred cars. It's more relevant. Preferred cars. There we go. And then we can just go change this. There we go. So remember, I'm renaming this over here because I prefer to do so, but you don't have to rename it. You can leave it as is. All right. So let's go now and let's go to multi-select option set over there. All right. Looks, configuration looks pretty much the same. What data type? Multi-select option set. It's simple, so it doesn't have the option for calculated. Do you want to use a global option set? Yes or no? All right. I'm going to show you global option set right after this one. And then let's go and click on the plus. And then we're going to, let's say BMW plus Merc. Right. Let's go for VW. Let's go and add Bentley. Right. Let's go and add, what else can we add here? BMW, Merc, VW, Bentley. Let's go and add Citroen. Okay, fantastic. Let's leave it at that. All right, save and close. Cool stuff. Let's save and refresh our form. And there we go. Let's scroll down. Let's go and add your favorite car, or preferred car, I think we called it. There it is there, preferred cars. Let's drag and drop. All right, great. Click on save, and let's click on publish. Give that a second to publish, and then we're ready to test out our multi-line option set. So multi-line option set is funny enough, I think a lot of people really wanted to have this field, and people were vying for multi-line option set, but once it was released, I've actually never actually seen anyone use this field. And the reason why people don't use it is because you can't report on it, because there's two values in the same field. So for example, if I created a graph, or I wanted to create a view with this, I wouldn't be able to add a multi-line option set value into a view, because which one does it show? Does it show all? It can't show more than one value. It only shows one line of data. Okay. Right. So there we go. Let's refresh this now. We should have our multi-line option set value in here. Okay. Let's wait for it to refresh. And there we go. There's your preferred cars. If I click on the drop down, you'll see it behaves different now. So I can say I prefer Bentley, this BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. All right. So where could you use this in a real situation? Where I see you could use it is, let's say, for example, I've got a list of services that my company sells, and let's say, for example, my prospective customers have competitive products. So when I create a lead, I want my salespeople to be able to select existing products that our competitors have that are at my prospect, in other words. So when we're looking at leads, I can go into the lead and go, this customer has this type of hardware, they have this type of software, they have these type of devices, they have these type of vehicles. So I can create these multi-select option sets so that I'm able to actually use it like this. Okay, and it makes it easy for quick reference. Once you're done, just click on save. Great stuff. And then you can see how it renders, just like that. All right, if I hover over it, it allows me to actually click on the X to unselect one of them, and then I can just save it, and then your values show in a single line like that. Okay, fantastic. Let's close out of that, and let's move on to the global option set. Now, global option set is a completely, well, not completely different beast. So in other words, it is very common that you have 5 or 6 different entities, and they have each of them have an option set, and those option sets that they have are actually the same pick list. So when I say pick list, is the drop down items. So let's say, for example, you've got let's say a rating, so warm, hot, or cold, and you wanted to use this rating on an account, a contact, and on a lead, for example. Instead of creating the option set over and over and over and over, you'd create one global option set, and then you would link those values to an option set, right? So let me demonstrate. So we go back into our form over here, and then we're going to go start first by going to the actual settings to go look at what global option sets are available. So in your solution, you can scroll down, and we're looking for option sets, as it shows you over here. Right, so select it and then wait for it to open. So let's go and create an option set. And my global option set, I'm going to say, let's say, what could we use as an example as a global option set? Let's say, I'm going to say rating. Okay. And then external type name, you can give it a name. It's got a schema name over there. That's fine. And let's go and give it an option here. And then I'm going to say hot, warm, and let's say cold, for example. Now this configuration of a global option set is something that you'll actually use quite often. So let's go save and close. Now my global option set is created, and now I can actually use it. All right. So if I go back to my fields over here, and I'm going to show you a different way to create a field now. Now I'm going to go to new. And this is now, I'm not creating the field from the form. I'm creating it directly from the field list itself. So I'm going to call this sentiment. Okay. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to choose data type as option set. And then the field type, I'm going to choose simple, and then use existing option set. I'm going to set it to yes. Okay. Now, when I set it to yes, you'll see it's grayed out over here, and here it says new. So I wonder why that is. That is because we haven't actually published our previous option set that we created here. Otherwise, it would give us the option here. So I'm going to abort this operation over here. Click on leave. I don't want to save it. I'm going to go and click on publish customizations. And then we wait for that to publish. So generally speaking, when you publish your customizations from the main solution, it will take quite a bit longer to publish because it's actually publishing everything within the solution. If I create a form or a new field within a form and I click on publish within the form, it only publishes the configurations inside that form framework. So the form and whatever I've done to that form will be published. Clicking on publish here publishes everything end to end. And then you'll sometimes get this page unresponsive. It's very common. Don't worry about it. Just click on wait. Okay. Well, we're still waiting. It normally does take a bit of time, but we don't really worry about it. You get used to it. Okay. It does actually take considerably longer when you publish from the actual main solution, especially when you've got quite a lot of entities that you've added into your solution. Then yes, it will take quite a while to publish. And you might get this message 2 or 3 times, but just hang in there, just wait. It will eventually publish. And there we go. We're done. Let's go down here. Oh, sorry, we need to go back to our option set that we wanted to create. So let's bring that back on the screen. Let's bring our solution back on the screen. There we go. Let's go create a new field. And we want to call this field sentiment. Okay. So sentiment is basically how you are rating this customer as the sentiment. How do they feel? Okay, the feeling of the customer. I'm going to leave that as is. And then let's go down here to option set. There it is there. All right, use existing option set. I'm going to say yes. And then if I go through this list, I'll click on this drop down and we called our option set rating. And there it is there. Click on rating. Cool. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And it's asking us for an unassigned value. And you notice if I click on this, it actually already has the values in. How cool is that? So I'm going to unselect it. I'm going to click on save and close. Now, if I go to my forms, I'll actually be able to add this option set to the actual form. Let's go back to our main form. There's the main form. Scroll down, and we're looking for sentiment. And here it is on the right. Drag it across and drop it onto your form. Now we have our sentiment. Let's go save and publish. So there's a reason why I wanted to do this, because I could have just created a sentiment field, put 3 options, and that's it, right? But there's method in my madness. I'll show you now. Let's minimize the solution, and let's refresh here, and we should get our sentiment field on the form. Okay, let's scroll down, and there's the sentiment. If I click on it, I've got hot, warm, and cold. All right. So what I'm going to do now quickly is I'm going to create one more field, and I'm going to call this field. Let's go and call this field rating. Okay. Let's click on new. Or no, let's give it a different name. Let's give it let's say purchase readiness. Let's call it that. Purchase readiness. All right. So how do we feel as customers? Are they ready to purchase warm, hot, cold, so forth, right? So again, I'm going to go and select option set, and I'm going to simple data type, existing option set, yes. Click on the drop down, type rating, and it'll find it, select it, save and close. All right. Go to my forms, and we're going to open up the main form. Wait for it to refresh. There we go. And let's see if we got that on the form over here. Nope. Oh, there we go. Purchase readiness. Let's scroll down and let's go and get our purchase readiness and go drop it in there. All right, let's save and we can publish. All right. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Let's go refresh CRM. Cool. Let's scroll down. And there we go. Sentiment. This was the first one we created. Hot, warm, cold. So let's go warm. And purchase readiness has got exactly the same values. So that's when I create a global option set that I can use the same set of option set, the same pick list values, and then I can use it in many different places on many different entities at the same time. So I don't have to create this list over and over and over and over again. Okay, cool. There we go. Let's save that. And let's move on to the next one. So the next one we're going to do is called a 2 option. So that is a drop down that only has 2 options. All right. Again, very simple. We're going to go to our solution. Let's go to our fields. There we go. And we can click on new. Let's open it up to the top. Let's say ready to purchase. Let's actually say ready for quote. Ready for quote. Right, click out and you'll see, let's change it over here so it's nice and neat. Ready for quote. Okay, there we go. And data type, we're going to go with 2 options this time. There we go. So you see by default, it already has yes and no. We can, however, select one, and then on the right-hand side, click on edit, and then you can actually change the no to a different value, if per se, but you only can add 2. So I'm going to change this. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to go and add something. Call next year. Oh no, let's make it something else, right? Not now. Okay. And then the yes, let's go and edit that. And let's say, please send quote. Okay. It's not very often that somebody will do this, but in this case, I'm doing it just to show you that you can actually edit them. All right, let's go save and close. There we go. Let's go to our form. Let's go to our main form. There we go. And then we look on the right-hand side for our ready for quote. Let's scroll down for where we want to put it. And there we go, ready for quote. Let's drag it across and drop it there. There we go. Save and publish. Now your changes won't take effect, obviously, and you must actually publish the changes. And obviously you must save before you publish. Okay. There we go. We're done. And let's refresh. Okay. Now that we've refreshed, we'll get that option will be showing here. There we go, ready for quote. It says not now. If I select it, I can click on it and it'll toggle between those 2 values. There we go. Cool stuff. Let's move on. The status field and the status reason. If you remember correctly, these 2 fields were automatically created when we created the entity. So if we take them, let's go and put them somewhere else, right? Let's go and put them into the header over here. So that's your header section. This is your body, and this is the footer. So let's go put it into the header. So to add data into the header, you'll see you can't click on it. It's all grayed out, right? Which means it's currently kind of in a read-only state. But on the top here, in your select section, go and select header. That'll lock the body, and now it allows you to enable the header. So let's go and drag and drop the status over here and the status reason over there. Okay, so what this means now is we can have a status of active or inactive, and then a substatus of what that actually means. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and double click on the status reason. If it doesn't open, you can just select it once and then click on change properties. And let's actually change the values that's in the status reason. So if I go to details over here and I click on edit, and if you see over here in my status reason, I currently only have 1 value of active. All right, so let's go and edit it. I want to have this as new customer, and click on OK, and then I can add a new one, existing customer, and let's go and add, let's say A plus customer. Let's go add another one. Let's say suspended. And then let's go add another one. Let's say blocked. And then click on OK. All right, cool. So now I've got some sub-status reasons there. And then what we want to do is I want to add a, let's say the status over here is active. Okay, great. Cool. So we're all happy with that. And we can go and save and close that, right? So save and close. There we go. And click on OK. Right. The next thing to do is to add it onto the form. We won't have it over here. We do actually. There it is, status reason over there. Save and publish. Cool. Right. Let's minimize this. And then we can go over here and let's go and refresh. So we're expecting this is the header over here. That's where we're expecting it to show. Let's refresh. And there we go. Let me just close out this error on top here. There's the status, and there's the drop down with the status reason. And then you can see it's defaulted to new customer. I can give this customer a different type, right? So it's an existing customer, or I can make this an A+ customer. And where I would use this is I would use this in an event where I wanted, let's say, for example, to give the customer a rating. Now be able to see the rating over there. And that's quite cool. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So we're moving on to numbers, so whole number, floating number, and decimal number. All right. So this time, because you got the idea of how to create the field, I'm going to go ahead and create these fields a little bit quicker than I would normally do. Right? Well, in a teaching lesson. Let's go. So let's go fields. Okay. And then let's go new. Now the whole number, I'm going to say quantity. Cool. We've got that, and we select our data type as whole number, and we set our minimum and maximum values. So let's say, for example, the quantity, the customer can order from 0, because you obviously don't want to have a minimum value of let's say -10. How do you order -10 of anything? And let's say up to 500 pieces. All right, cool. Now previously I've been showing you save and close. What I want to do is click on this one over here, which is save and new. So click on that. Right. So I've created one that says quantity. Then I'm going to say offer. Right. And this one, I'm going to set this one as a, let's say, a currency, because decimal and currency are basically the same, except this one comes with the default currency symbol. So let's go with currency. And then minimum value, 0. Maximum value, let's say 1,000. Right? And there we go. We've got our field created for the offer. Save and close. All right. So we've created a whole number. We've created a currency field. We can also have a decimal number. All right. So let's go and create one more. Let's create a decimal number. And let's call it counter offer. All right. There we go. And we're going to go to decimal number. Now, decimal number, have a look at this. You'll see there's a precision here. So this is how many places after the decimal you want to actually add, right? So because I'm just going to use the standard, which is 2. Minimum value, I like to set that to 0. All right. And then the maximum value, whatever quantity. All right. So let's save and close. All right. So let's navigate to our form now, and let's go and add these onto our form. There we go. All right. Let's go over here. And the first one we're looking for is the quantity. So let's drag that on. Right. And then we had the offer. Right. And then we had the counter offer. Where's our counter offer? There it is there. Okay. So that was the whole number. The offer, I think we made it a currency field. And the counter offer, oh, one of them, one or two, I can't remember. I think the one is a currency and the other one is a decimal field. All right, great. And then what else? Did we create another one? I think we just created the 3. All right. Let's save and publish. And there we go. Let's scroll down and let's go and minimize this as well and refresh. Okay, so now that's refreshed. Let's scroll down and let's go see how that behaves. So here, if I can put a 1, I can put a whole number, but if I go decimal to 0 and I tab out of there, I'm going to get an error because it's telling me I need a number between 0 and 500. So let's go with 10. Okay. The offer, if I remember correctly, this was a decimal field. So if I go, let's say 123.23, there we go. It's telling me, oh, this is actually a currency field that I need to enter an amount between 0 and 1,000. Right. There we go. That's done. And then counter offer. This was a normal. When you use the same number, you want to see how it's different. There we go. Tab out of there. See, the one puts the currency field is also a decimal number, but it puts the currency symbol in front of it. With a counter offer, I want to show you something interesting. I want to show you what happens when we change the currency precision. So there's our counter offer. Let's select it. Let's click on change properties on the top here. And let's go change the currency precision to 4 decimals. And let's see how that looks. Over here, change the currency precision to 4. Save and close. Click on OK. And click on Save. Then click on Publish. And we just wait for that to go for it. There we go. Minimize. We can refresh. And now you'll watch how it looks. Or you'll see how it looks. And there we go. Let's scroll down. And there we go. That's what it means. There's 4 decimals after the number. Okay. Cool. Let's see what else is left. We've got a date and time. Let's go do a date and time field. All right. So let's go over to our solution over here. Let's go with fields. And let's go create a date and time field. And this time we're going to say estimated purchase date. Purchase date. Right. There we go. Let's go and select date and time. And then at the bottom here, you'll see, let me try and move this up a bit. You'll see it says behaviors, user local, date only, or date and time. So let's go use date and time. All right, great. And then, yeah, that's it. Okay, save and close. Good. All right, so we've got that. Let's go to our form. We're going to need to refresh this form because we've created a new field, but we haven't refreshed the form over here. Okay. Once that refreshes, we'll be able to go over to the estimated purchase date, drag it and drop that over here. And that'll slide the field in there. Let's save it and publish it, and let's go see how that looks. Cool. There we go, and we can refresh. And there we go. Scroll down, there it is there. Okay, so you'll see there's 2 blocks. Select the first one, your calendar picker comes up. If I actually click on the date, it switches to year mode or month mode. If I click on it again, it goes back, right? There we go. So if I click on the up and down arrows over here, it'll actually increment in years. So 2021, well, let's go 2020, January 1st. There we go. Now the time, if I select this, click on the little clock, it'll give me a time scale. So 5 a.m. And then click on save. If I change this field type or the data type to date only, let's go and actually see if we are actually able to change that. So let's go back to our field types, the estimated purchase date. Click on change properties over there. Go to details. Click on edit. Right. Now you'll see your data type is now locked. So once a field has already been created, there's only certain information that you can actually change. So that's the name. You can't change the logical name of the field anymore. The field requirement, yes, no, searchable. The data type you can't change. So it is a date and time field, but I can change the format. So I'm going to go change it to date only. Let's go save and close. Click on OK. Click on save. And then click on publish. And let's go see what's happened to it now. Right, so we're obviously expecting that the time will actually be removed. There we go. Let's scroll down. Let's see how it's changed. And there we go. We've got a date only field in there. And that's cool. Okay, fantastic. Right, the next one, we're almost done. We've got 2 more fields to go. We've got the lookup field is the next field. So let's say, for example, I mean, this is a demo here, but we wanted to connect this to a contact or an account. Okay, so let's go and create a lookup field that connects this record to a contact. So when I go into the contact, and if I go to the related records of the contact, let's say James, for example, I can go and connect the related record to James, right? So you can basically create a family tree of records that are connected to each other. All right. So to do that, let's go and go back to our form. Well, let's actually do it the better way. Let's go to our solution. Let's create a new field. Right, and then we're going to say, let's give it a name. Let's give it buyer. Okay. And then in my data type, I'm going to select lookup. There we go. And then I need to select the target record type or the entity. So here I'm going to go and select contact. Right. And then I'm going to type the relationship string over here. So this I do like to rename. All right. So we know the field name is the demo underscore that's looking up to the contact. And then I like to put ID afterwards. Right. So that means I always start with the current record and the parent record in that sort of sequence. Okay. And then we can click on save and close. If you don't rename this, don't worry, it will still work. It's just a neater way of actually creating your field labels. And the reason why I put ID at the end is I like to use that so when I'm writing script, I know which ones are lookups and so forth. I don't have to page backwards and forth between my field types. Okay. Let's go save and close. Okay. And then just give it a couple of seconds to finish creating, and then we will be able to add this to our form. Let's go to forms. There we go. Let's open the main form, wait for it to refresh. There we go. And then the buyer, there it is there. So let's go and where we're going to add this. Let's add it in between the message over here. So drag the buyer across, drop it in there. And there we go. Save and publish. Okay. And there we go. Let's minimize this and minimize your solution, refresh. So remember earlier, I spoke about 2 actions, append and append to. Okay. So we're going to actually demonstrate what this actually means. So, and the reason I'm stressing on this is because it's a feature or a rule that you're going to come across quite a lot, especially when you are doing security profiles. They're going to ask, do you want to give the user rights to append and append to, and you need to understand the difference. All right, so over here, where's that field that we added? Oh, we're on the wrong one. Let's go down over here to our demo records. And there is our James test one that we did. And here is buyer. So remember, I'm on a record connecting it to a parent record. So this action is called append to. If I was on a record adding child records to this below this, I would be appending the record. Okay. So we can go in here, we can type James. It'll search, and there we go. It comes up with James Brown. Let's select that and click on save. Now you actually have a connected relationship. All right, so that means that the buyer is James. If I go over here and I click on James, it'll actually navigate to James. If I click on related and I scroll down here, we should be able to see on our related demo records. So when I click on demo records, what it's going to show me is the demo records related to James. So click on demo records, and then it shows up in a grid over here, which is the demo associated view. So it is the demo records associated to James Brown. And there we go. That's how relationship works. And just so you know, this relationship type is called a one-to-many relationship, and it's represented as the number 1 colon and an N, a capital N, which means one-to-many, which means there's one record of contact, and there can be many demo records associated with James. So it's that hierarchical type structure. Okay, the very last one is called customer. Okay, so the customer field is a unique type of lookup that allows you to look up to contact and account at the same time. All right. And remember earlier I described the scenarios. The scenario I described was a customer can either be a company, which is a physical building, or it can be a person, which is a physical person. So normally your cash customers will be your people, and your corporate sales will be directly with a company. So you have the flexibility of both. Okay. So let's go and add a customer field onto our form. Let's go new, and let's go to fields, sorry. And let's create a new customer field. And I'm just going to call this client, for example. And then I'm going to go and select customer lookup. Right. And it's got to account and to contact. It's entered the relationship types over there. I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'm going to go save and close. Okay. And that's it. Let's go to the form. Now you'll see it's a little bit different to what you normally are used to. Okay, so we're going to go add that client that's here by the buyer. So let's go and add it in. There we go. Let's save it and publish. So let's say, for example, you created a custom entity and you called this custom entity job card, for example, and I wanted to connect the job card to a client. That client can be a person or it can be a company. Let's go see how that renders. Let's refresh. Okay, we're almost done. There we go. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Let's go to our demo record. There we go. Let's open that up. And let's go scroll down, and we're going to look for our client field that we created. There it is there. Okay. Now, if we click on this, look at something that's quite interesting here. You'll see that this icon over here is indicative of an account, but you also have a different icon which looks like a little person. So these are people. So you get a list of people as well as companies in the same list. Now in the later versions, this has got a new function, which is these two tabs over here. So if I want to filter this to companies only, I can actually click on that and it'll only show me companies. If I click on contacts, it'll only show me contacts. If I click on all, it'll show me a list of contacts and accounts combined. In the search field, I can type in James, for example, and it'll search and it'll show me that there are 3 contacts by the name of James. But if I go and I type, let's say, adventure, because I'm looking for Adventure Works, it'll give me the list of all the adventure companies, but it'll also give me people that work for companies that have the name Adventure in the name. All right. So let's go and let's actually tie this to Adventure Works. There we go. So I have a company there, and that's fantastic. Then I go and save my changes. Okay, cool. And there we go. The very last field that we're going to do now is an image field. I must be honest with you, this is a field that is very, very rarely used. In myself personally, I haven't done any configurations where we've used this field, but you know, it is a field that you can use, and it allows you to actually change the image over here. So remember earlier I said that the image field itself doesn't mean I can go and add an image into the actual CRM. You'd need to do that with HTML, but I want to be able to change this image over here. All right. So let's go and see how we can actually do that. All right. So the first thing we have to do is we have to go to the actual metadata of the entity and actually go and enable that. So let's click on demo. Okay. So that's all cool. That's fine. The primary field. That's perfect. Select data type text. There we go. That's fine. And we're going to go to our forms. Open the main form up. Okay, once we've opened this main form up, I'm going to go to form properties. Right, and then we're good on the display. It says image here. We're going to select this. Now you'll see that it won't let me select it. So there's certain images that it won't allow me to show. All right, so I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to go create a new field. I'm going to call this field image. Okay, so let's just say image. Okay, there we go. We've got it. And then we can go and select the image type over there. So it says name entity image. We've got it. Data type image. That's perfect. And then we can go save and close. Cool. Let's save that and publish it. Okay. Let's refresh. Cool. Now, you'll see there's a difference. Can you see the field is not here? It doesn't show the field? Cool. Let's go to form properties. So it's the only field that you actually can't go and add to the field. Now you'll see the image section over here allows me to actually select it. So now I'm actually enabling the image on the form. So if I click on OK, click on Save, click on Publish. Now let's go and actually see how that behaves. Okay, so there's some solution error there, no problem. Then we're going to go save and close. I'm just going to go and publish all the changes to make sure that our changes have been published. Okay, let's go try that one more time to publish our changes. Okay, there's some sort of technical error over there. Okay, let me go and refresh and let's see how this has behaved. And there we go. Right. Cool. Perfect. It's working. All right. So what does the difference is if you see this used to be a little blue dot before, right? If I click on it, it now gives me the current image, and then I can upload an image. So let's do that. Go to my upload, and let me go and upload a picture of myself. Click on open. Now, very, very important that you must know. The image, first of all, that you're going to upload must be smaller than 5 megs. Okay, so that's a really huge image. However, it is going to auto crop the image to 144 pixels by 144 pixels, and it's also going to reduce the size of this image as well. Right, so it is important to make sure the image that you are putting in is 100% square so that it actually fits properly. Change. And there we go. You got a little picture in there. So you can use this to actually label it. So if I go and create a brand new record now, you see it has no picture, and let's call this Jackie Chan. Save. There's no picture there. Click on it. Upload image. And let's go give him a different image. ABC for dynamics. Open it. It'll crop it. Change it. And there Jackie Chan's got his own custom image. How cool is that? All right, guys. So that's it for fields. In the next lecture, I'm going to be talking about business rules. So business rules are a really, really cool function where we can do a whole ton of different things from calculations and so forth. So look forward to lecture 12 where we'll be talking about, we're going to talk about business rules, and we're going to talk about calculated fields. We're going to show you a little bit of calculation method and so forth using business rules and standard calculated fields. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for lecture 12 and going on forward. Thank you so much.